All right, we're going to take you now live to Winnipeg, where we're getting an update on the wildfires spurting in that province. Let's listen.
We are making really good progress in gaining control of that fire, so we have no significant concerns with that one at this time. In terms of the outlook, we are looking at obviously very challenging conditions. So we have hot weather right now. We have dry conditions. We have had some very windy days, and we expect that to continue, today as well as into tomorrow. There has been some mention of precipitation in the forecast. However, we are not seeing the forecasted amounts anywhere where we need them to be to extinguish the fires or make any appreciable difference in what those fires are doing. So we are going to be having another challenging day in terms of being able to fight these fires that we currently have and address any new fires that may start. I think that's all I have for now. I'll turn it over to you, Christine.
Okay, thank you, Kristen. My name is Christine Stevens. I'm the Assistant Deputy Minister for the Manitoba Emergency Management Organization. Before I get started with my briefing, I just wanted to flag that we will be holding another briefing in person here tomorrow at the same time for an update. So what I can tell you now is that at this time, there are 24 active fires in Manitoba. 6 of those fires are of note and are requiring significant and prompt response. A number of communities in Manitoba have issued mandatory evacuation notices. Currently, 5 provincial parks, 3 local authorities, 3 Northern Affairs communities, and 24 cottage subdivisions have issued mandatory evacuation orders. 6 states of local emergency have been declared. So as Kristen alluded to, we are actively responding to this wildfire season. This is an extremely dynamic time for us. We are working closely with local authorities and everyone who is participating and part of that response. And the message that we want to send out to Manitobans today is that if you do not need to be in the parks and if you do not need to be in the areas where first responders need to access, we are asking you to stay away. Staff need space to be able to respond to this event. We are very much in a live response type of situation where we're working to protect people, critical infrastructure, and property. Our message to folks who are currently in the Whiteshell area but not in an area impacted by an evacuation, our message to you is that we want you to stay alert. We want you to monitor for communication from the local authority, and we want you to follow their direction because, as I said, this is a dynamic situation. I guess now we'll open it up to questions.
Do you have an update on the size of the other fires, Lac du Bonnet, Ingolf, and the Polynesian?
I have preliminary figures for Lac du Bonnet. It was estimated at around 3,000 hectares. The Ingolf fire is estimated at around 20,000 hectares. And unfortunately, I don't have a current size on the fire in Western Manitoba.
What about the arm of Piney? I know there's a fire burning there, and the RM said 2 homes have been lost. So you didn't mention that one. So.
There is a fire there. There is East 57 is the fire near Badger in the arm of Piney. We've been fighting that one as well for a number of days. We have heavy equipment actively working on that fire. It also is considered out of control at this time. I don't, unfortunately, have current numbers on any structures lost or any other impacts of that fire, though.
Why is the Lac du Bonnet one the main concern if the Nobelwing one is so much bigger?
The response is based on a number of factors, values at risk in the area, but also on fire behavior. So what we saw with the fire near Nopaming yesterday was extremely volatile fire behavior, that it isn't even safe to be actioning a fire of that volatility. And so the decision was made to focus on Lac du Bonnet, where it was safer for us to respond, and there was obviously a public safety risk that we wanted to address.
So are you actioning the Nopaming fire then now, or has it changed, or is that one still just kind of, we're just gonna let that one burn?
I don't have a kind of like a real-time live update on what's going on with that fire at this time. We, throughout the day, will be adjusting our response based on fire behavior and anticipated conditions.
So how stretched thin is the emergency service right now? We know there are some firefighters from BC that went to the PAW, but are we at the point where we might have to call in other boots on the ground?
Yeah, same kind of answer to the other question. It's a day-by-day decision. We are always looking to what's available across Canada and other jurisdictions. We do know that there are a number of other challenging wildfire situations happening in Canada right now. Other agencies are also dealing with the same kind of temperatures and fire danger that we are. So we are looking into what options would be available, but our focus remains right now on responding in the moment with what we have on hand.
Has there been any injuries?
Pardon me?
Has there been any injuries?
At this time, we don't have confirmed injuries related to this event.
We've been hearing some frustrated people in these areas, frustrated with the lack of up-to-date information on the provincial fire maps. Can you guys address that?
Yeah, so obviously, again, our focus is on responding in the moment. And so sometimes there is a lag in the information getting entered into a computer and put up onto the website. We do strive to keep that as up-to-date as we can. Rest assured that the folks who are immediately impacted by the situation, so whether they need to be evacuated, whether there's a risk they need to be put on alert, they are being communicated with locally. Outside of anything going publicly on our fire view map.
And the conditions that have created these fires, I was actually just in Lactobani 2 days ago before this started. And it's dry up there. How prevalent are those conditions throughout eastern Manitoba and into northern Manitoba? Widespread across all of eastern Manitoba, central Manitoba into the Interlake, western Manitoba, all the way from the southwest corner all the way up north. The north has been getting a little bit of precipitation recently, but it's not much to make that much of an appreciable difference. It's still very dry. So I would say widespread across the entire province at this point.
In terms of precipitation, what would Manitoba need in order to make a dent in the situation right now?
We would need a good soaking rain, a couple of inches, a couple of days of rain to keep the humidity levels high. So we want to keep those kind of moist conditions happening, lower temperatures. Those would all help our fire situation.
Is there any concern about lightning in the days ahead?
There has been some lightning in the last 24 hours that went through the province without a lot of rainfall with it. So that is a concern and something that we are watching all the time to make sure that we are on top of anything that might have happened because of a lightning strike. There is some potential for storms in the forecast in the coming days as well. So obviously the lightning would continue to be a risk with any of those that pass through.
There's a lot of large fires on the go right now. Is there anything unprecedented or different or unique about this current situation compared with previous situations?
It's hard to answer that question now because we're not seeing a typical fire season anymore. Typically, we wouldn't be seeing a lot of this level of activity happening until later on in the summer. We deal with a short kind of grass fire season before things greened up and then have a little bit of a break before the forest fires started. But we are seeing that our seasons are starting a lot earlier. We're out on the landscape fighting forest fires probably a month earlier than historically we would be used to.
Why would that be? Is it not?
It could just be, weather patterns are certainly a contributing factor there. The amount of moisture that we have going into the season plays a big factor. So we have had a number of years where we've had dry conditions in the fall that don't lead to a lot of recharge in our watersheds. So that's obviously one of the factors.
Can you talk about cause? I know the two kind of in the Interlake area there say natural, but every other fire is listed as human. So just what do each one of those mean?
So natural causes is lightning is really the main factor there. Human cause could be either intentional or unintentional accidental starts. So things like burning in a burning barrel and some of the garbage flies out of the barrel and starts a grass fire. It could be using an ATV in a very dry area and a spark could ignite dry grasses. It could be people burning in conditions that they shouldn't be. So it could be, burning leaves or grass in your yard when it's hot and windy and that fire has a chance to escape. So there's a lot of ways that it could happen that are not intentional by any means, but certainly are something that people always need to be considering, when they're looking to undertake starting a fire, what potential would this have to escape?
What about the heroics that goes into fighting these fires? Like you see these videos of these fires and they're scary and people's houses are burning down. What are the crews doing? Like what lengths do they go to? Like we heard that there was a big ditch that was dug really quickly to create kind of a barrier. Just can you explain what's happening out there?
Mm-hmm. So I can focus from like a wildfire service response. Local fire departments would have different techniques that they would use, but I can't speak to those. From a wildfire perspective, we obviously have a number of different methods of controlling a fire. So you'll see the water bombers and helicopters with bucketing attacking the fire. The ground crews use a number of different types of tools to create fire breaks, to actually dig down into areas where there's fuels burning and like extinguish them by hand. We use heavy equipment to push down any fuels that might be in the path of the fire to create like a fire break or a fire guard. There's lots of different methods that we would use depending on the situation.
Was a ditch dug at that Lac du Bonnet fire to protect homes? So can you tell us if that actually happened?
I don't have that information today, no.
In terms of the causes of these bigger fires, what caused them?
These fires, I believe, are all still under investigation. I don't have specific details on what started these ones at this time.
And is it known so far, I know it's like a really rapidly developing situation in some places, but is it known so far the number of evacuees?
That's information that we're still working to gather. Folks received evacuation notice and had to evacuate within 2 hours in some areas, so many drove out on their own. So we're continuing to register folks who have evacuated. In fact, we would like to say that if you've evacuated from an area and haven't registered yet, we would appreciate for you to register with the local authority or at the reception centers that have been set up, just so that we have a better sense of evacuee numbers.
Is there any idea of potentially the number of structures that have been lost in some of these bigger fires?
At this time, our focus really is on the response phase. The area is unsafe. We are working to make sure that we are fighting the fire, protecting people, infrastructure, and homes and cottages. So at this point, no, we don't have a sense of that. It'll take some time.
Just regarding the fire near Nopalin, what made it so volatile yesterday and potentially into today as well?
The conditions were really challenging. So it was the high temperatures, very high winds, and just overall, just the general dry conditions that we were looking at.
Is that common? I guess how common is it for a fire to get to the point where it's not safe to respond at all? Is that something we see frequently?
Yeah, we do. We can see it, every year we see a number of fires like that. And so they might even throughout certain periods of the day have different varying levels of intensity. And so we might respond and then back off and then respond again later. So it's always changing.
At what point would Manitoba get involved in the in-Gulf fire? Like, is it and if it crosses the border?
So we work really closely whenever we have a fire along a border with the neighboring jurisdiction. And so we will work together if they have resources out on the fire, water bombers or helicopters. We'll make sure that we're using those resources effectively. If they're already out there, they, don't know necessarily where that provincial line is. It's not like they wouldn't drop on the Manitoba side and vice versa. So we're just always in constant communication and keeping each other apprised of what's going on.
Can you just talk to the scale of how, quickly and how big this is?
Okay, we've been listening to an update on the wildfire fight in Manitoba, going on for a number of days now. We heard there about a month earlier than normal. It's another challenging day for firefighters. Currently, there are 24 active fires burning in that province, 6 of note. Windy conditions are expected to continue today and tomorrow. There is some precipitation in the forecast, but not enough to make a significant difference. We are planning to speak with the Reeve of Lac du Bonny, where a major wildfire is burning, in just a few moments.